From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London and I'm back from, a weekend with extended family last weekend, which ended in a bit of a soggy fashion. So there's been so much rain over the UK in recent days that we got a bit flooded towards the end. Had to do a bit of a quick out rather than stay the extra night that we were going to. But before that, we'd been kayaking, there'd been zip lining, crazy golf, all sorts, a lot of fun. Just a bit soggy at the end.
Well, we've had some rain in Sydney as I talk to you, but it's the first for quite some time. But it certainly had a dampening effect on the domestic one-day competition. We've had a few washouts now, as well as a few low-scoring games. While there's one eye on that, the end of the footy season, and some strange 50-over tournament apparently taking place in the cold autumn of England between the old enemies, Australia and England. But does anyone really care much about it? Maybe they do. Anyway, I've certainly been having a look at the highlights because there's been some fun batting from both sides.
Yeah, big scoring that series. But talking about rain, well, the Indian monsoon's retreating now, but still troubling Mumbai, which was flooded, I think, for the last 24 hours and some terrible scenes there. But luckily in Bangalore, all is well. I'm getting better as well. So, and enjoyed watching India showing Bangladesh who's boss despite their victories in Pakistan. And of course, looking forward to the women's T20 World Cup in the Gulf, where hopefully India will just take that final last step that's been missing.
We will see. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. And we will, Jim, talk about England's one-day international series against the Aussie men. I've been travelling around the country a little bit with them as well. I was in Durham for the most recent game there that I saw up there. And yeah, most of the grounds are sold out. So even though it is September and the football season has started here, people still have that appetite to go to a ground and watch the cricket. It might be the only time they see international cricket all year. You never know. But first, we are less than a week away from the start of the Women's T20 World Cup. The 10-team tournament taking place in the UAE after it was moved from Bangladesh after the civil unrest in the country. Now, it's the 9th edition of the tournament, and Australia are the strong favourites. They'll be aiming to make it 4 wins in a row and 7 titles in all. Their last title came just last year in South Africa when they beat the hosts by 19 runs in the final. But the last team to lift the trophy before Australia's dominant run was West Indies back in 2016. And it was the Aussies they beat in the final in India. Now, Deandra Dottin was a star all-rounder in that World Cup winning squad, but surprisingly announced her retirement from international cricket in 2022 in the middle of the Commonwealth Games. Now, 2 years on, she's reversed that decision and she's back in the West Indies squad at this World Cup. I caught up with her from her hotel in Dubai and asked her what led to her decision to come back.
A bit of reflection, I think the break that I had has done a lot to my cricket aspect of the game, in terms of the mental part. Yeah, so I mean, like, it feels really good to be back with that break. Like I said, it did so much for me that it put me in a different place, like to be more focused on the task at hand and what I need to be, where I need to be in the future. It's good to be back.
Did you intend your retirement decision when you made it to be a finite decision, or did you always think there might be a chance I could return?
Yeah. I always thought that it might have been a chance that I could have returned. Like I said, the break actually, basically, it did so much to me with the soul, like I've never left. I mean, like sometimes you may think that you're not going through something, but really and truly deep down, you're actually going through a lot. So sometimes where people handle things differently, they use psychologists to have chats too, and some of them use breaks. So I think that the break that I took did me a lot, and it could impact for the team in the future as well, now that I've been back.
What did you use that break, that time when you were retired, to work on? What did you feel you needed?
Yeah, for the first year that I've sent in my retirement, I just stay away from all forms of cricket, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I just do things that more out of the sporting box, spending a lot of me time and playing game and stuff like that, just taking everything away from cricket. And after that, I just gradually started about a year ago playing with this men's team in Canada near Toronto Strikers. And it just, my body just felt so relaxed that it was like something new to me, or like I've never left. So that's when I realized that, hey, I really did needed that break.
Because I think because you were playing in the 100 every season, weren't you? And you were over in the WBBL. I think it felt as if you'd retired and you were going to make a career out of the franchise circuit. Was that ever the intention?
Well, I could have done it that way, but then coming on to when I made my decision to come back, is like I started to even miss the game more internationally. So that's when I say, well, look, this is something that that I'm still passionate about, and that I still have a lot of love for. So, and I also still have a lot to give in terms of being a senior player, and there are young ones coming up that I can give feedback to, and what I've learned in the past, and what I mean, what I've achieved and what they want to get out of cricket, or where would they like to improve. So
If I take you back to August 2022 when you made your announcement, it felt like quite a shock to those within cricket because you had been such a force within the game, the record 100, going all the way back to 2010. You'd been a World Cup winner in 2016 with the West Indies team. And you said at the time that there'd been sort of obstacles during your career and the current climate and team environment hadn't been conducive to you being able to thrive. If I take you back to that time, what were the sort of things that were going on that led you to step away in that moment?
to be honest, I don't like to like dwell on that, because at the end of the day, that was like in the moment, and that was things that were going on, and right now that is actually the past. So I mean, like, right now this is the present, and going on in the future that I would like to actually pay more emphasis on, and go forward, because I mean, like, back in that time is something that you really don't want to actually remember or stress on. So yeah, I've accepted things going on, and I think I've matured from that. So I guess it's time to move on.
Yeah. Has anything around the West Indies Cricket Board helped to shift things for you? Because I remember in August last year in a podcast interview, you talked about sort of the board needing to perhaps engage with the players in a more respectful way. I wonder whether anything you feel has changed in that regard.
Now that I've been back, seeing and actually witnessing it, they have changed a bit. The culture of the team and the players being more like spending more time together, doing a lot of team bondings, and actually on the same level as each other, wanting to achieve the same goals in terms of whether it's a series or World Cup or whatever, and they're actually more determined and focused on the task at hand and their roles.
Deandra, good luck for the T20 World Cup. Very much looking forward to watching you play in a West Indies shirt again. Thanks for being with us on Stumps.
Okay, thank you, and no worries.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on Akashvani.
Let's dive into the World Cup in a bit more detail because it is just 17 days long. It's quite short and sharp, featuring the 10 teams, 23 matches in all, played across just the two venues in the UAE, Dubai and Sharjah. So each team will play the others in their group to decide the four semi-finalists. Now, Jim, yes, the Aussies are the defending champions. They've won every single edition, bar two. And they have just beaten New Zealand as well, 3-0 by way of warm-up. They are in the same group as New Zealand, along with India, Sri Lanka and Pakistan, which is definitely the tougher of the two groups. Can you see any upset happening in that group stage?
Well, there's always a chance of an upset, particularly if there's a bit of rain around and you have a Duckworth-Lewis situation. If Australia turn up and play 70, 80%, if not their best, they're going to win most of the time because they've got the more skillful players overall. And I'd be keeping an eye on India in particular as we go into this series. They're the one that's the real threat. So let's see what occurs. But I think Australia, as ever, are strongly placed to play better cricket than most of the others.
What about India then, Charu? How do you feel they're faring coming into the tournament? Because they are still searching for their first ever Women's World Cup title. How do you view their chances overall?
Well, not much better than the past. And were they title contenders in the past? They probably were, making a few semis, making that one final as well. And so it's a bit of a monkey on their back without a doubt, because, I mean, they will be suffering from some belief questions. Are we really good enough to win or not? Are we good enough for the semi-finals? Perhaps yes. Jim, you mentioned it's the tougher group, maybe, because there is Sri Lanka, there is New Zealand for India to get past, and of course Pakistan. Hopefully, once again, India will maintain the record. And finally, Australia, I think we'll get a very good indication in the league stage, if India were to get the better of Australia, that once again, they could be leading contenders for the title. But they have been suffering a bit in terms of the amount of match play, according to me. I think some of the other girls, the other countries play a lot more, and the Indians don't. So there will be some match play situations. Also, there's injuries, Alison. There's injuries to their fast bowlers. Both Arundhati Reddy and Pooja Vastrakar are nursing a fairly serious injury. I hope they'll be ready in time. And also Jamima Rodrigues, who comes up with some fine performances in the field and certainly with the bat. And also one of the new stars, Shriyanka Patil, is injured, both with the fingers, the last two. So we hope that they are 100%, because if they're not, unlike Australia, and Jim mentioned if they play 80, 85%, they might get through. If India are down from 100%, then their chances reduce pretty rapidly. So they have a good nucleus for sure. They have lots of experience, a couple of new stars. But how do you get past Australia and perhaps even England, who are the only two teams, I think, that can be guaranteed a position in the Final Four? The rest is going to be very, very tough. I think the conditions are neutral for virtually every team, which is perhaps good news.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on Akashvani.
Finally on Stumped, England have received something of a double boost in their men's ODI series against Australia. First stand-in skipper Harry Brook became the youngest England captain to score a century in men's ODIs at the age of 25 years and 215 days. And then Test captain Ben Stokes has said that he's open to carrying on playing one-day international cricket. Remember that he came out of retirement for the 50-over World Cup last year, then missed the T20 World Cup to focus on his fitness for the Test summer. So he remains officially unretired, really, and it says that he is open to playing under Brendan McCullum when he takes over as coach of the white ball team, if asked. Apparently there hasn't been any conversation as yet. We'll come to Stokes in a moment, Jim, but I want to talk to you about Harry Brook. I watched him in Durham, interviewed him afterwards, and that was a proper ODI knock of his, that 100. Some wonderful boundaries and the century coming off 80 odd balls, but he was also pretty judicious, did a lot of running between the wickets as well. Did you manage to catch the highlights? What did you make of it?
Yes, I turned on to watch the highlights, and the first thing I noticed, Travis Head wasn't playing, so I thought advantage England. Then I noticed that Adam Zampa wasn't playing either, so that certainly helped. But Brook did play well. Australia won the first two matches by the length of the straight, and this one was compromised to an extent by Duckworth-Lewis, but Brook was outstanding,
and
as
England
he was a few times in the Ashes. Yeah, well, hopefully England are on track, because they've been pretty mediocre so far in this tournament.
What about Ben Stokes then, Charu? Because he is box office and a match winner and a big presence in any team. That will be a huge boost for England, wouldn't it, if he does play ODIs again with a Champions Trophy in February?
Well, he is all of that. A huge star. It's late in the season. Football's on in England now, and they need a little more to get the crowds back onto the field and cheering. And of course, Ben Stokes is going to be able to do that. But I just feel it's a little funny. Funny is perhaps not the right word. Curious. How if Baz comes back into looking after the team, then Stokes says, hey, I'm ready to play, which is a bit of a backhanded situation for the rest of the coaches and the staff saying, well, I wasn't ready to play when you guys were around. But now that Baz is back, we share such a fantastic relationship. And of course, we know he's done very well for their Test squad, that I'm now ready to play. Nothing to do with teammates and others, but just the change of coach, which we probably know what he means, that he's excited to come back because of this new coaching change, but it just sounds a little off for others who were in charge.
I wonder whether it's something to do with his fitness as well. I mean, he still doesn't know, actually. He's had scans now to say that he's on track to play the first Test match in Pakistan, which is good news. But of course, he was only playing as a batter for quite some time, wasn't he? So I wonder whether, if he feels he's sort of at full fitness and able to both bat and bowl, that then playing one-day cricket, he can manage that. Whereas when he was wanting to fully focus on being, I'm the Test captain, I need to be fit for Test cricket, and therefore to give me the best chance of that is to play less white ball. And that was sort of the reasons to why he didn't go to the T20 World Cup, whether that's, also part of his thinking.
England aren't going to beat any good team unless Stokes and Root are playing regularly.
But then, you wonder how many players you might see sort of take a step back from white ball cricket, but just pop back up and make themselves available for the big tournaments.
As far as England are concerned, I don't think they can win, as I say, any major event, certainly without Stokes' talisman effect as a leader and a player. And that's certainly the case for the Ashes next year. But we just want to see him play. Whatever you think of the situation, without him, cricket is a lesser game because he's such a good player. And I'm sure he has the same sort of feeling. He hates missing out. That's why he puts his hand up every now and then, even though he's having a little rest here and there in between matches where the games are less attractive, shall we say, than a World Cup.
This business about the big players returning on the big stage, I think there's a lot of talk in India too at times, in the current Test series, as a matter of fact. There are so many hungry young players, as you know, we in India certainly believe that we have massive depth. And yet somebody like KL Rahul, who we all have great regard for, does come right back into the Test team. And I remember one of the younger players who was asked, well, how do you feel about it? Said that it makes sense that if there's somebody who has done a lot in the cricket world, he was injured or otherwise not available, and wants to come back, there's no doubt in our minds that he will get preference. For Ben Stokes, surely they will agree on stepping back because he doesn't bring just ability. He brings so much more to England's squad and to the world of cricket. So if he is fit and wants to come back, I think there will be quite a few names that will be ready to step back and say, all right, well, we thought it was our time, but we'll wait.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped on Akashvani. Don't forget you can follow us on X. We're at BBCWS Sport and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. And check us out on YouTube as well. Go to the BBC World Service's YouTube channel. Thanks to Charu Sharma and Jim Maxwell and to all of you for listening. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC Sport production for the BBC World Service in association with ABC and Akashvani.